There's snow on the ground, it's freezing, the wind is blowing, and it's easy to stay inside and think there's nothing to do in the garden. But the truth is, now is the time to start winter sowing. All of those seeds that you've been collecting since the end of the season, all through the autumn, now is when you start planting those. It's the most inexpensive, cheap way to guarantee that your garden will have all of the flowers that you're looking for next year. And that's what we're headed inside right now to do. Lars has the camera, but he's going to take us through how we winter sow here in our garden. So let's get inside where it's warmer. Hey Lars, we're inside where it's nice and warm. Benefits of winter sowing, go.
Okay, the reason why I winter sow the seeds is you kind of, for different kind of reasons. First of all, you're gonna let the nature do all the work, because you're just gonna place them in trays and then you're gonna forget all about them out there in the just outside. And then when it's spring, when it's warmer, after it's gotten these different temperatures, then it's gonna just start to sprout all the seeds. And you don't have to have a bunch of space. I have a bunch of seeds, as you know. And so you actually just, if you sow them outside, you don't have the trouble of finding a spot for maybe 50 trays inside. So that's the reasons why you should winter sow.
And also, we don't have to invest in grow lights and warming trays and all that sort of stuff.
That's right.
Because
That's right, because then nature will kind of acclimate the smaller plants when they grow up. If you would do the inside pre-sowing, then you would have to get the seeds to be used to being outside in colder temperatures, so you would have to take it outside for a few hours every day and then maybe back in. So it's a lot of moving forth and back plants, and this way if you winter sow, the nature will just, like, the seeds will automatically be used to like cold and warm weather, and then you, after they grow, you can plant them direct in the garden next.
yeah, and we don't have to put them in our refrigerator for cold stratification. We've done that before. Remember that, Lars?
I did.
Remember when we used to put seeds
oh wow, you zoomed in
the freezer?
In the freezer and in the fridge. So if that's also a thing, if you don't do the winter sown outside, another method is that you put them for some weeks in the fridge or the freezer for a few weeks and then back out in the cold. If they don't sprout, you can move them back in. It's a lot of forth and back with the seeds, a lot of effort. So in this way, yeah, the nature is doing everything by itself, and you don't have to actually lift a finger once you sown them. So it's just the process now. Okay. So I'm just quickly gonna let you know what you need for your winter sowing. It's super easy. You need 5 things. You need soil, you need water, you need trays, whatever. I'm using these recycled trays. Also seen people use milk jugs and things like that. You can use whatever kind of things you have. I love to recycle.
Yeah,
things.
we don't use milk jugs because we have a glass house.
That's right.
So we're keeping all of ours in the glass house. If you don't have a glass house, we inherited ours. If you don't have one, then you can use those milk jugs.
That's
plenty of videos out there. The same idea, same technique, all the same steps. You would just do it in a milk jug, not in a recycled meat tray. This is what our meat comes in here in Denmark. We wash them really nicely, draining holes. Done.
That's right. And we don't have these milk jugs like in other countries.
Yeah.
In Denmark, we have really
paper, easy to recycle.
Really weird ones. You couldn't really
and they're only 1 liter. I don't know what you could sow. Yeah. America looks like you have gallons of milk, which is 4 liters.
Huge.
Even water, we don't buy water that way. So anyway. Yeah. So those are much harder to find. That's why we do them this way. Continue.
Okay, let's back to this. So soil, water, trays. You need your seeds. I have them in these coffee filters that when I collected them in the autumn, we dried them and then we collected them in these coffee filters, because the really great thing about this is that the seed doesn't rot or anything. So I store them here in this different kind of containers, and they are all full.
Don't act like you just keep them in there. Look,
I have them.
It could look like we're a card catalog at the library.
and over here. But the main thing is really great coffee filters, and we drink a lot of coffee, so we have a lot of filters for that.
Those are new filters, Lars. You've mentioned that before. Those aren't.
No, but I also recycle them.
No, you don't. Those are new filters. Y'all
Okay, they look
stop
so
it.
nice and neat. Okay, most of them are new. But anyway, it's good to have them for the seeds.
Filters.
And then you can, last thing, super, super important, is you need to label your seeds. If you put these and say, oh, I know this echinacea, believe me, in 2 months, I've done it, then you forget about it. So important, label your seeds. You can do, I have these popsicle sticks. Not that we finish so many ice cream popsicles.
No. So
they are bought. Otherwise, like plastic, whatever. If you have the milk jugs, you can
these were a
write
gift
directly.
for Christmas. Super
Ta-da!
cute.
From USA, from my in-laws. And then just a marker, whatever you have. So really label them if you do put them outside. I have them in the greenhouse where I have to do a little bit more watering, but these last really well outside. So
And that's another thing to mention, Lars, because we don't have these milk jugs and things like that for this cold, moist stratification, we do have to water a bit more because they're uncovered and in our glass house. So that is something to note.
okay, so first of all, this soil I have here, it's from a bag. It's super dry, as you can see. And now I really need to pull
What
up my
kind of
sleeves.
soil is this?
This is actually, in Denmark we call it a plantesæk, but it's like a bag you use for your cucumber, or looks like this. You actually you can put this whole thing in a container outside. You poke a hole here and then you actually plant your cucumber, tomato in the greenhouse right away. But this bag is really good. It's a lot of nutrition in, but also cheap. It's cheaper than using normal potting soil and
Seed sowing soil.
that's
And
right.
that's really what a big take home. We've been doing this. We've winter sowed, and goodness gracious, we sow all the time. But winter sowing we've been doing a long time. The reason why you can use such a nutritious soil is because in nature, your flowers are going to throw their seeds anyway, the ones that are perennial and hardy to your area. So
That's
they
right.
can handle this rich soil. Sometimes with seed starting soil, it doesn't have as much nutrients. Tell me if I'm wrong, Lars. And
right.
sometimes that's what you want for the little seedlings because they don't burn as badly or they won't really use all that nutrition. But because this soil mimics what's already outside, being heavily nutritious, it's safe to use for this method.
So we're actually going to use this because also the seed sowing soil comes in much smaller bags,
And
more
expensive.
expensive. So we really think about, okay, how can we do this in a budget
can say the
garden?
word cheap.
So, in a cheap garden. I was about to say that, but so we're going to use this year. Just it's super dry, so we have to. That's why I'm pulling up. You can use your gloves. But what important is you have to really make it really moist. The moisture has to be really nice here, so really get your hands in there and then really mix it in well. You could also just use this drier soil, or if you have other kind of potting soil, and put it in the tray and then use a sprayer that I have used the other years also. But I started doing this really, how do you say, like moisturize the dirt, really make it...
Moisturize, that's
How-
a nice word. Like, I
Is
think
that
we
a-
just say you moisturize. No, you just add water to the soil. Shall we say that?
But you kind of like, you make it so it's not hungry anymore, kind of. It's not hungry anymore. You would say that in Denmark. It's not hungry for more until it's kind of like it sticks, but it doesn't really. See, you need to mix it more. But as long as it doesn't come water out when you squeeze it, I need to mix it a little bit more. But kind of like this, like it's a little lumpy, but stays together. That's the important thing. And then it's ready to use. Mix it a little bit in here, and then it's ready to use for the tray.
So keep mixing, keep adding water.
Yeah.
I'll put my hands down for a minute and help you, and then we'll show what it looks like.
Okay. Okay, I know I've been a kindergarten teacher. Oh, I love this. Look at this. Kids would love playing with this.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Iris isn't here. He's at school this morning. Another reason to premix your soil. This soil's taking a lot longer than people want to sit through. But another reason to do it this way versus adding the dry soil to your trays or to your milk jugs and then adding water, because you'd add the water after the seeds, and if it's dry, the water can move your seed could sort of fall.
Yeah.
down deeper than it was supposed to. If it's supposed to go on top of the soil, it could, the water could move it. So this way you're also taking care of that step.
That's
giving
right.
your seeds a better start.
Because you could easily flush it if you had a watering can and add water
Well,
on
especially
top
with
and
the watering
stuff like
can,
that.
yeah. But even with a sprayer,
Yeah,
you can knock a seed.
Depending on if it's small or big seeds. But now we mixed it, and now it's really looked like it's like a snowball. Perfect. So it's ready.
No water's coming out. It is good.
Nope. Perfect. Look at this. Okay, so I'm gonna add about, in these ones here, about 2 handfuls. So there's of soil, so I have enough to add seeds on here. I'm gonna place them here, and it brings me to the next step in this winter sowing. What kind of seeds can you sow? There's actually a bunch. You could actually say you could sow all of the perennials, because if they also are out in the garden, they would self-sow and throw the seeds on the ground, and then they also get this cold period of time before they would sprout. So you could in generally say all perennials you can cold sow. And there's also some that really needs the cold time. And the best time is actually December, January, what we are now, is a perfect time. So it gets around these 3 to 4 weeks of cold period for the seeds to germinate later on. So they get changing warm and cold period. But what I'm going to do, for example, is the Astrantia. That needs around, again, 3 to 4 weeks. It's called stjerneskam in Danish. This is a really a dark, pretty one. You can get it in white as well. But that one really does well. And so we're going to sow that one. So perennials, as I mentioned. Then also hardy annuals, like summer flower, that flowers in the summer, like cosmos is a really good one too. And you could also here say, as a guideline, you can say all the hardy annuals, the ones that really are great at self-sowing, they do really well. And also snapdragons will do well sown in the winter time. And biennials like the digitalis, like plants or flowers that flowers the second year. First year they produce the green foliage, the leaves, and then the second year they come with this big flower show. So those are these 3 lists what kind of seeds you could grow a winter sow. So now I'm gonna just fill up a bunch of these trays so we're ready to sow. Okay, so now I'm drizzling just really roughly the cosmos here, the dark pink one. Just really roughly over here. There we go. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of my soil on top here, just so they barely covered. A little bit more. Here we go. Just drizzle on top. I just want to show here. So the cosmos here, I haven't really cleaned them so nicely. Maybe there's always a little bit of flower petals left. I don't really sit there and pick it all out. So I really, just leave some of it in here. And then I cover them like this. There we go. As you can see, it's all covered. And then I add, the last thing is I add my name tag here. Just anywhere in the corner here. And then it's ready to come out in the greenhouse. So this, the Astrantia, the stjerneskam we call it, is, as you can see, a much larger seed. So it's going to be a little bit easier to scatter around the tray here. So again here I'm not really putting, like I don't really mind it grows close to each other. A lot of the perennials here also, they don't mind being close to each other. And then later on you can divide them if they grow. But it gives you also, you have more percentage growing, so always add a little bit extra. Some of them might not sprout, so in that way you are certain of getting a lot of new smaller plants. So again, this the Astrantia here, because seeds are different, this plant doesn't mind to be just having a little bit of dirt on top. You don't need to cover it as much as the other, for example, the cosmos. So just a little bit more. Doesn't mind to have a little light So here we go. And then you also will add a name tag. Here we go, we write it here. Astrantia, here we go. And then you just add it in here and it's ready to go outside. There we go. So some seeds have a really hard shell, and normally if you would, like this Lupine, normally you would have to soak it in water like about a day, and then they are easy to germinate. But because you winter sow, it will be out in the winter time, and it will have this longer time to be ready to germinate. So nature is gonna, with the moisture outside, it's gonna actually remove this hard shell it has, the lupine. So no need to soak it first. So also here I'm just gonna sprinkle it really roughly over the soil here. And notice it's really nice and moist already. So that's really what the seeds are gonna love outside. There we go. And then I just gonna add a little bit of, ta-da, more soil. And then of course remember always a name tag, so we don't forget a little bit more. And these lupines are really one of my favorite perennials. I love them in all kind of colors. Blue, pink, white, yellow, you name it. I love it. It's really nice. There we go. So I can't wait for it to grow. And normally they maybe grow flower the second year, but let's hope for this year they already, when I sow them early on. There we go. So this one, this is actually an annual, the Verbena bonariensis. Is these seeds I sow, also I just sprinkle them on top here. But the difference from other kind of seeds you winter sow, you don't cover them with the soil on top. They need light to germinate. So here's really important to keep it moist throughout this season until they start sprouting. Make sure you spray them once in a while so they don't dry out. And here's a name tag. Okay, I got the seeds done here with the...
We got 3 done. We will not make you people sit through everything that we winter sow.
How do you think? How many do you think? Maybe 80 this year?
Last year we had, what was it, over 104? We made a video about it. It was the end of July, beginning of August. There were 104 different flowering plants out there in the garden. So I don't know how many we're going to winter sow this year, but...
We have a bunch, that for sure. So all these are done, and let's take them outside so they can see where we put them in the greenhouse.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so I made a little spot for it here. So all these trays are going to be right here on this shelf. There we go. And now I don't really have to do a bunch of things. Like the next, maybe every 2 weeks, I'll go and check that the top up here doesn't dry out. So I have a sprayer here that I'll spray a little bit. So really keep it moist and not dry here on the top. And then it's really going to be super exciting when it gets warm in here. After cooler, we'll have some maybe -degrees. Doesn't matter. You don't have to cover the seeds. I never do in the greenhouse. And then they will sprout in beginning when it gets spring. So they really enjoy just being here. So I'm super excited about that. I'm going to show you some other places we have, if you don't have a greenhouse, some other options what you can do.
It's cold, Lars. Talk fast.
Okay. So here we had these raised flower bed is a different alternative if you don't have a greenhouse for cold sowing your seeds. These are just like perennials that we have divided and sown autumn, and after our dahlias finished, we just place them here as a little nursery. But
so a lot of these, just to restate what Lars mentioned, a lot of these are from cuttings, or they were sown in the autumn, or they were, we divided plants as well. So
that's right. So if you have raised flower beds like this and you don't have a greenhouse, that could be another option. You could sow these in autumn after you collected your seeds, or November, sprinkle them on top, cover them maybe with chicken wire or some kind of cover, or like an old window frame or something, just so you don't get birds, anything else, or a cat playing around in that and messing up your seeds. Because you could do leaving it out. An alternative is also leaving it out in your flower beds, but you have a better focus, you have better eye on the whole process, because later on you don't know what is a weed and what's a new seed.
And that's really the big advantage. If you winter sow now, you have way more control over where you want your flowers to be, what's weed when you start to weed. You just have a lot more control. You can also use a plastic tote, like the same plastic container that we store our Christmas decorations in.
That's true, yeah.
You could use one of those, keep the lid on it, pop a few holes in it for drainage, of course, and for air circulation. But there are a lot of alternatives if you don't have a glass house like we do.
That's true. And another thing is, what's really great is also nature will do all the watering. Here you don't have to really do anything else than just waiting for the seeds to come. And I do recommend that you place them somewhere away from the sun. Otherwise they will start to maybe get warmer and maybe start to sprout early when it's not ready yet. So away from full sun, also then you're not in chance of it will dry out. If you do it in a milk jug, maybe you have to do a bit more watering, things like that. So that's other options you can do. Oh, it's freezing.
It is, and we're not even wearing gloves.
No,
crazy
oh no,
people.
a hat.
We're like the worst Danes ever.
Right. So the verbena is ready now to be placed in the greenhouse. I'm going to sprinkle them with water, and I will here keep them being moist over winter and becoming spring before they sprout.
Okay, back inside, back to filling up trays with soil, back to deciding which seeds make it this year in our garden.
Right.
Oh, over there, and which ones don't. Thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, we will see you next time.
See you. Thank you for watching.